A 1-year-old baby has spent years building weapons, plotting schemes, and openly declaring that he wants his own mother dead. We laugh at it. Damn you, vile woman. It's one of the most quoted gags in television history. But step back for 1 second and actually sit with it. A child wants to kill the woman who feeds him, bathes him, and tucks him in at night. That's not a joke. That's the setup to a horror movie. And the real reason behind it is far stranger and far sadder than Family Guy ever lets on. Today we're going to dig past the punchline and answer the question the show keeps dancing around. Why does Stewie Griffin actually want to kill Lois? Because there isn't just one reason. There are layers, and as you peel them back, you stop seeing a cartoon villain and start seeing something that's genuinely heartbreaking. By the end of this, that catchphrase is going to hit completely differently. There are 3 theories we're going to walk through, and they build on each other. The surface theory, which is what the show tells you, the psychological theory, which is what the show hints at, and the deepest theory of all, the one that explains everything, including why Stewie eventually stops. Let's start at the surface, because that's where most fans stop. The simple version is that Stewie is just a megalomaniac, a baby born with the brain of an evil genius and the ambitions of a Bond villain. In this version, Lois isn't special. She's just the first obstacle. Stewie wants to take over the world, and Lois is the authority figure standing between him and total domination. She tells him no. She puts him in his crib. She controls his entire existence. To a mind that craves absolute power, the person who controls you is enemy number 1. And honestly, on its own, that explains a lot. Stewie's matricidal rage often spikes right after Lois exercises control over him. She makes him eat his vegetables and out comes the death ray. She refuses him something and he starts building a bomb. It looks like a pure power struggle, the tiny dictator versus the only person who can still tell him what to do. But here's the first signpost, the first crack in that theory. If it were just about power, about removing an obstacle, Stewie would be efficient about it. He's a genius. He's built time machines and teleporters and weapons that defy physics. A baby that's smart could end Lois in 100 clean, simple ways. So why doesn't he? Why are his attempts so theatrical, so elaborate, so weirdly emotional? Why does he want her to know it's him? That question breaks the surface theory wide open, and it leads us to the second layer, the psychological one. Because Stewie's obsession with Lois isn't the cold logic of a strategist. It's hot. It's personal. It's the kind of fixation that has nothing to do with power and everything to do with feelings. And the uncomfortable truth the show keeps flirting with is that Stewie's rage toward Lois is the rage of a child who feels unseen. Think about Stewie's whole existence. He's a baby who is by far the smartest person in his household. He has thoughts, plans, an entire rich inner world, and not a single member of his family understands a word of it. He speaks in full sophisticated sentences, and they hear baby babble. He builds a weather control device, and Lois says, "Aren't you a clever little guy?" and wipes his face. Imagine being a genius trapped in a body that nobody takes seriously, with a mother who treats your brilliance like a cute phase. That would drive anyone to the edge. So Stewie's matricidal fixation starts to look less like ambition and more like a desperate, twisted cry for attention. He wants Lois to see him, really see him, and since she'll never see the genius, he settles for making her see the threat. If you can't be acknowledged for what you are, you'll settle for being feared. Every elaborate murder attempt is, at its core, Stewie screaming, "Look at me! I am not what you think I am." Here's the plant for the end, so hold on to it. Notice that Stewie's hatred is aimed almost entirely at Lois, his mother, and not nearly as much at Peter, his father. That detail is everything. We'll come back to it, because it's the key that unlocks the deepest reason of all. Let's go deeper into the psychology, because it gets richer the closer you look. There's a strong reading of Stewie where the violence isn't really about wanting Lois gone at all. It's about control over the one relationship he can't control. A baby is completely dependent on its mother, utterly powerless. For a personality like Stewie's, who needs to be in command of everything, that dependence is unbearable. He can't stand needing her. And when you hate that you need someone, sometimes the easiest emotion to reach for is the desire to destroy them, because destroying them would mean you don't need them anymore. That's why the attempts are never quite serious and never quite succeed. Part of Stewie doesn't actually want Lois dead. Part of Stewie is wrestling with the fact that he loves her and depends on her, and resents both of those things with every fiber of his tiny being. The murder plots are the war between the genius who wants to be free and the baby who can't survive without his mom. And the show actually proves this, which brings us to the deepest theory, because over the years, something changes. Stewie's obsession with killing Lois fades. The catchphrase shows up less. The death rays get pointed elsewhere. Why? What happened? What happened is that Stewie grew, emotionally, even if he never grew physically. The more the show developed him, the more it revealed that underneath the supervillain was a scared, lonely kid who desperately wanted connection. As Stewie found other outlets, his friendship with Brian above all, his rage toward Lois cooled. He didn't need to threaten her to feel powerful anymore, because he started finding actual relationships where he felt seen. The murder attempts were never really about Lois. They were about a hole inside Stewie that he didn't know how to fill, and once it started filling, the gun went down. Now here's the payoff to everything we planted. Remember how the rage was aimed at Lois, the mother, and not at Peter? Here's why. You can only feel that specific, burning, desperate kind of hatred towards someone whose love you actually need. Stewie doesn't fixate on Peter because, on some level, he never expected anything from Peter. But Lois is his mother. She's the one person who's supposed to understand him completely. And her failure to do that is the deepest wound he has. You don't try to kill the people you're indifferent to. You only go to war with the people you can't stop loving. Let me give you the evidence for this, because it's not just a nice theory. It's written all over the way Stewie behaves. Look at how Stewie acts when Lois is actually in danger from someone else. For a baby who claims to want her dead, Stewie has a strange habit of panicking when she's genuinely threatened. When the danger is real and it's coming from outside, Stewie's mask slips, and what's underneath is a terrified kid who does not, in fact, want to lose his mother. He only wants her gone in the abstract, in the fantasy, in the safe little theater of his murder plots, where he's in control and nothing actually happens. The moment her loss becomes real, the whole act collapses. That's not the behavior of someone who hates. That's the behavior of someone who's scared of how much he cares. Look also at the timing of his rage. Stewie's worst spikes of hatred almost always come right after a moment of rejection. Lois ignores him, dismisses him, treats him like just another baby, and that's when the death ray comes out. It's not random, it's reactive. He lashes out hardest exactly when he feels smallest. A genuine megalomaniac wouldn't need an emotional trigger. He'd just execute the plan. Stewie needs the wound first, because the wound is the whole reason the plan exists. And look at what fills the hole when the hatred fades. As Stewie's bond with Brian deepens, as he finds someone who actually talks to him like an equal, who takes his intelligence seriously, who treats him like a person instead of a baby, the matricidal obsession quietly drains away. That's the tell. If the rage were really about power or ambition, a new friendship wouldn't touch it. But it wasn't about power. It was about loneliness. The second Stewie found one relationship where he felt seen, he no longer needed to threaten the one where he didn't. The murder plots were a symptom, and connection was the cure. There's one more layer, and it's the saddest of all. Part of why Stewie aims this at Lois specifically is that a baby's entire universe is its mother. She is the first face, the first voice, the first source of everything. To a mind as aware as Stewie's, that total dependence on one person is overwhelming, and when that one person doesn't truly know you, the disappointment isn't ordinary. It's cosmic. It's the feeling of being a stranger to the one person who's supposed to know you best. That kind of ache doesn't come out as sadness in a personality like Stewie's. It comes out as a weapon. The threat is the only language he has for a feeling too big to say out loud. And that's the real reason Stewie wants to kill Lois. It was never hatred. It was heartbreak. The most disturbing catchphrase in television isn't the cry of a villain. It's the cry of a child who feels invisible to the one person he most wants to be seen by, and who would rather be a monster in her eyes than a nobody. There's one more reading worth sitting with, because it makes the whole thing even sadder. Some fans believe Stewie's obsession with Lois is really about identity, about a kid who doesn't fit anywhere trying to define himself against the person who made him. Stewie is unlike everyone in his family. He's smarter, stranger, more aware. He doesn't see himself reflected in Peter, or Chris, or Meg. The only mirror he has is Lois, and what he sees in that mirror terrifies him, because part of becoming his own person means rejecting where he came from. The murder fantasy in this reading is really a separation fantasy. Stewie isn't trying to end Lois. He's trying to end the part of himself that needs her, so he can finally be something of his own. That's why it's always so theatrical, so personal, so charged with feeling. You don't pour that kind of emotion into removing an obstacle. You only pour it into cutting a cord you're terrified you can't live without. Every elaborate scheme is Stewie trying to prove to himself that he's free. And the fact that he never goes through with it is proof that he isn't, and on some level knows he never will be. He's a child trying to grow up faster than a child can, and the rage is just the sound of that impossible effort. Stack all of this together and the picture is unmistakable. The panic when she's truly in danger, the spikes that follow rejection, the way connection dissolves the hatred, the terror of dependence. The struggle to become his own person. None of it points to a villain. All of it points to a lonely, brilliant, frightened kid who loves his mother so much it short-circuits into something that looks like its opposite. So here's the bigger idea this teaches you, not just about Family Guy, but about how stories hide their hearts inside their jokes. The most shocking gag in the show, a baby plotting to murder his mom, is actually a deeply human story about wanting to be understood. Family Guy buried one of its most emotionally honest ideas inside its most outrageous one, and almost nobody noticed, because we were too busy laughing at the death ray. Next time you hear Stewie say that famous line, listen for what's underneath it. Listen for the kid who builds doomsday machines just to get his mother to look up from the dishes. It's not funny anymore once you hear it. It's the loneliest joke in the whole show. And maybe that's why the line endured for so long, why it became the most quoted thing in the series. We thought we were laughing at how absurd it was, a baby threatening his mom. But maybe a part of us recognized something true in it, the universal childhood feeling of wanting, more than anything, to be understood by the person who's supposed to understand you best, and the quiet devastation when they don't. Stewie just took that feeling and handed it a ray gun. Underneath the catchphrase is the most relatable wound there is, and the show smuggled it past us inside a joke about murder. So what's your read on Stewie? Cold-blooded little villain, or a lonely genius crying out for a mom who'll never understand him? Tell me in the comments, and tell me the exact moment you think Stewie's hatred for Lois actually started to fade. If this gave you a whole new way to see that catchphrase, hit the like button and share it with someone who only knows Stewie as the funny evil baby, because they have no idea how sad it really is. And don't go anywhere, because once you understand why Stewie wants Lois gone, you have to ask the bigger question. Just how disturbing is the entire Griffin family timeline? The answer is worse than you think, and we're breaking it down next.